two sisters named Alina and Sofia. They grew up in the same house. They shared the same bedroom. They learned about money from the same parents. And those parents taught them one simple rule: owning a home is the smartest thing you can do with your money. Their father would say this every Sunday at dinner. Their mother would nod in agreement. Rent is just throwing money in the garbage, she would add. When you buy a house, you are paying yourself. Both sisters believed this. It was as true to them as the sky being blue. When Alina turned 28, she bought a house. She was so proud. She stretched her budget to the absolute limit. She put down every dollar she had saved. Her monthly payment was almost half her income, but she did not care. She was a homeowner now. She was a real adult. Sofia did something different. She kept renting her small apartment. She took the money she would have used for a down payment and put it in the stock market. Every month, she invested the difference between her cheap rent and what a mortgage would cost. Her family thought she was making a terrible mistake. "You are throwing money away," her mother said. "You will never build wealth," her father warned. 10 years passed. Today, Alina is stressed. She is tired. Her house needed a new roof last year. $22,000. Her property taxes went up again. Her furnace is making strange noises. She has not taken a real vacation in 5 years because every extra dollar goes to her house and her house. After 10 years of payments, she still owes almost as much as when she started. Most of her money went to the bank as interest. It disappeared. Sofia is different. She is calm. She is free. Her investment account has grown to over $400,000. She can work from anywhere. She traveled to 3 countries last year. When her landlord raised the rent, she simply moved to a nicer apartment in a better neighborhood. Same family, same lessons, same starting point. 2 completely different lives. One sister followed the old script. One sister questioned it. Today, I am going to show you why everything you learned about renting and buying might be wrong. If you have ever felt shame about renting, if you have ever panicked about not owning a home, or if you bought a house and wonder why you feel poor instead of rich, this video is for you. Before we look at the numbers, we need to understand where our beliefs about housing come from. From the time we are children, we hear the same message over and over. Renting is wasting money. Your landlord is getting rich off you. A house is the best investment you will ever make. Owning a home is the American dream. This message comes from everywhere. Our parents say it. Our grandparents say it. The news says it. Real estate agents definitely say it. Banks say it because they make money when you borrow. We hear it so many times that it becomes part of who we are. In his book, The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel explains something important. He says that we do not make financial decisions based on math. We make them based on stories. The stories we heard growing up. The stories our culture tells us. The homeownership story is one of the most powerful stories in our culture. And because of this story, people do strange things. They buy houses they cannot afford. They stretch their budgets until they break. They feel deep shame if they are still renting at 30 or 35. They rush into the biggest purchase of their lives without ever running the actual numbers. Let me introduce you to a man named Daniel. Daniel is 32 years old. He makes good money, about $75,000 a year. He lives in a nice rental apartment. He has money saved. He invests every month. He sleeps well at night. But Daniel feels like a failure. Why? Because his younger brother just bought a house. Because his coworkers talk about their homes. Because every family dinner includes the question, when are you going to buy? Daniel is being pushed by a story. Not by math, by a story. Robert Kiyosaki wrote one of the most famous money books ever. It is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. In this book, he says something that shocked many people. Your house is not an asset. It is a liability. What does he mean? An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A rental property you own puts money in your pocket. Stocks that pay dividends put money in your pocket. A business puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Your house takes money out of your pocket. Every single month, the mortgage payment, the property taxes, the insurance, the repairs, the new water heater, the broken dishwasher. Money flows out, not in. Your house might go up in value someday, maybe. But right now, today, it is taking money from you. That is what a liability does. This does not mean houses are bad. It means we need to think about them correctly. A house is a place to live. It is a consumption choice. Like buying a car. Like buying furniture. It is not automatically a good investment just because you signed papers. Now, let us talk about the biggest lie in the rent versus buy debate. The lie is this. When you rent, You throw money away. When you buy, you keep it. This sounds true, but it is not. When you buy a house, you also throw money away. A lot of money, every single month. These are called unrecoverable costs. This is money that leaves your pocket and never comes back. Money that builds zero wealth for you. Let me explain each one. The first hidden cost. Mortgage interest. When you get a 30-year mortgage, you are borrowing money from a bank. The bank charges you for this a lot. In the first years of your mortgage, most of your payment goes to the bank as interest. Not to you, not to your equity, to the bank. Let me give you real numbers. Imagine you buy a house for $400,000. You put down $80,000. You borrow $320,000 at 7% interest. Your monthly payment is about $2,100. In your first year, how much of that actually reduces what you owe? How much is building your equity? Only about $400 per month. The rest, about $1,700, goes straight to the bank as interest. That is $1,700 per month that is gone forever. You will never see it again. Built nothing for you. Alex Chicken wrote a book called The Wealthy Renter. In this book, he shows that in the first 5 years of a typical mortgage, you throw away more money on interest than a renter throws away on rent. Let me say that again. The buyer throws away more money than the renter. The difference is that the renter knows they are throwing money away. The buyer thinks they are building wealth. They are not. They are paying the bank. The second hidden cost. Property taxes. When you own a home, you pay the government every year just for the right to live on your own land. In some areas, property taxes are 1 to 2% of your home's value every year. On a $400,000 house, that is $4,000 to $8,000 per year. Gone forever. This money builds nothing for you. And here is the scary part. Property taxes usually go up over time. Cities need more money. Schools need more money. Your taxes increase. Your mortgage might be fixed, but your taxes are not. The third hidden cost. Maintenance and repairs. Houses break. Everything in them breaks. The roof, the furnace, the air conditioning, the plumbing, the electrical system, the appliances. The general rule is that you should expect to spend 1 to 2% of your home's value on maintenance every year. On a $400,000 house, that is $4,000 to $8,000 per year. Some years, it is less. Some years, it is much, much more. Let me tell you about a woman named Grace. Grace bought her dream home 3 years ago. In the first year, her water heater broke. $1,000. In the second year, she discovered her roof was leaking. $12,000. In the third year, her furnace died in the middle of winter. $6,000. That is $19,000 in 3 years that Grace did not expect. That is over $500 per month on top of her mortgage. When you rent, you do not pay these costs. If the dishwasher breaks, you call your landlord. They fix it. Their money, not yours. The fourth hidden cost. Insurance. Homeowners insurance is expensive. In some areas, especially areas with weather risks, it is getting more expensive every year. This is another $1,000 to $3,000 per year that disappears. Gone forever. The fifth hidden cost. Buying and selling fees. When you buy a house, you pay closing costs. These are fees for lawyers, inspections, and paperwork. Usually 2 to 5% of the home's price. When you sell a house, you pay even more. Real estate agents take about 5 to 6%. There are more closing costs, more fees. Altogether, buying and selling a house can cost you 8 to 10% of the home's value. On a $400,000 house, that is $32,000 to $40,000, just in fees, just to buy it and then sell it later. If you sell your house after only 5 years, these fees alone might wipe out all the equity you let us add up all these hidden costs for a $400,000 house. Mortgage interest in early years, about $20,000 per year. Property taxes, about $5,000 per year. Maintenance, about $5,000 per year. Insurance, about $2,000 per year. That is $32,000 per year in unrecoverable costs. Money that is gone. Money that builds nothing. That is about $2,600 per month that you throw away. Now, how much would it cost to rent a similar house in the same area? In many expensive cities, you could rent that same house for $2,000 to $2,500 per month. Do you see what is happening? The homeowner is throwing away more money than the renter. The homeowner just does not realize it. They see their big mortgage payment and think, I am building equity. But most of that payment is interest going to the bank. This is what Robert Kiyosaki means when he says, your house is a liability. Money is flowing out, not in. Now let me teach you the single most important number for deciding whether to buy or rent. It is called the price-to-rent ratio. Here is how you calculate it. Take the price of a house, divide it by how much it would cost to rent a similar house for 1 year. For example, a house costs $500,000. A similar house rents for $2,000 per month. That is $24,000 per year. 500,000 divided by 24,000 equals about 21. The price-to-rent ratio is 21. What does this number tell you? If the ratio is below 15, buying is probably a good deal. If the ratio is between 15 and 20, it could go either way. You need to look carefully. If the ratio is above 20, renting is probably the smarter choice. If the ratio is above 25, renting is almost certainly better. In many big cities today, the ratio is very high. San Francisco, the ratio is over 30. New York, over 25. Toronto, over 25. Los Angeles, over 25. Sydney, Australia, over 30. When the ratio is this high, the math is screaming at you. Rent, do not buy. Why? Because when houses are very expensive compared to rent, the hidden costs of owning are much higher than the cost of renting. Let me put it simply. When you rent in an expensive market, you are living in $1 million asset for a fraction of what it costs to own that asset. The landlord is taking all the risk. The landlord pays for the broken furnace. The landlord pays the property taxes. The landlord worries about the market crashing. You just pay your rent and live your life. Burton Malkiel wrote a famous book called A Random Walk Down Wall Street. In this book, he explains that markets are not always rational. Sometimes things become overpriced. And when housing becomes overpriced, renters can benefit. You are essentially getting a discount on housing. Let the landlord take the hit. You keep your money and invest it elsewhere. Now let us talk about the most dangerous hidden cost of all, the down payment. To buy a $400,000 house, you usually need to put down 20%. That is $80,000. $80,000 of your cash is now locked inside a wall. You cannot touch it. You cannot invest it. You cannot use it if you lose your job. It is trapped. This is what we call opportunity cost. The cost of missing other opportunities. What if you had taken that $80,000 and invested it instead? The S&P 500, which tracks the biggest American companies, has returned about 10% per year over the long term. If you invest $80,000 and it grows at 10% per year, here is what happens. After 7 years, $160,000. After 15 years, $330,000. After 25 years, $860,000. That $80,000 could turn into almost $1 million, but not if it is locked in your wall. Robert Shiller is a professor at Yale and won the Nobel Prize in economics. He wrote a book called Irrational Exuberance about market bubbles. He studied house prices over more than 100 years. What did he find? Real estate, after you adjust for inflation, barely grows at all. Maybe 1% per year in real. The big gains people talk about are usually just inflation. Your house went from 100,000 to 300,000 in 30 years. Inflation explains most of that. You did not get richer. Money just became less valuable. When you lock your down payment in a house, you are making a bet. You are betting that your specific house, in your specific city, in your specific neighborhood, will beat the stock market. Historically, that bet loses. The stock market, over time, beats real estate. And the stock market gives you something else that real estate does not. Diversification. When you buy an index fund, you own tiny pieces of hundreds or thousands of companies. If one company fails, it does not destroy you. You are spread out. When you buy a house, you own one thing, in one place. If that neighborhood declines, if the local factory closes, if crime increases, your wealth can disappear. Thomas Stanley wrote The Millionaire Next Door. He studied ordinary people who became millionaires. What did he find? Most millionaires do not live in expensive houses. They live below their means. They invest their money. They build diversified portfolios. They do not trap all their wealth in a single building. Let me introduce you to a man named Victor. Victor is 35. He makes $80,000 per year. He lives in Los Angeles, where houses are very expensive. Victor could stretch his budget and buy a small condo for $500,000. He would put down $100,000. His monthly costs, including mortgage, taxes, insurance, and maintenance, would be about $4,000 per month. Or Victor could rent a similar condo for $2,500 per month. Victor chose to rent, but Victor did something smart. He did not spend the difference on fancy dinners and new clothes. He invested it. Every month, Victor puts away $2,200 into an index fund. That is the difference between what he would spend on owning and what he spends on renting. Plus, he invested his $100,000 down payment. Here is what happened to Victor over 10 years. His investments, with compound growth at 8% per year, grew to over $430,000. Meanwhile, his friend who bought the condo, after 10 years of payments, he has about $120,000 in equity, and his condo needs a new roof. Victor is $300,000 richer, and he can move anytime he wants. He has no anchor. This is called the rent and invest the difference strategy. It only works if you are disciplined. You must actually invest the money you save. If you just spend it, you get nothing. But for disciplined people, this strategy is powerful. J.L. Collins wrote a book called The Simple Path to Wealth. In this book, he explains that the key to building wealth is simple. Spend less than you earn. Invest the difference. Be patient. Renting, for many people, allows them to spend less on housing, and investing that difference builds real wealth. There is another huge benefit of renting that people forget. Mobility. We live in a changing world. Jobs move. Industries change. Opportunities appear in new places. When you rent, you can move easily quickly. Let me tell you about a woman named Amara. Amara rented an apartment in Phoenix. She worked at a marketing company. One day, a company in Seattle offered her a job. It paid $40,000 more per year. Amara thought about it for 2 days. She accepted the offer. She gave her landlord 30 days notice. She packed her things. She moved to Seattle. Her total moving cost was about $3,000. Within 2 months, she was settled in her new city, earning much more money. Now imagine Amara had owned a house in Phoenix. To take that same job, she would need to sell her house. This takes time. Usually 3 to 6 months, sometimes longer. She would pay 6% to real estate agents. On a $300,000 house, that is $18,000, she would pay closing costs. Another $5,000. She might need to do repairs to sell the house. Another $5,000. Total cost to move. Almost $30,000. And months of stress. Is it worth taking a $40,000 raise if it costs you $30,000 to move? Many homeowners say no. They stay stuck. They miss opportunities. Their house is an anchor. It holds them in place. In a world where jobs change quickly, where new opportunities appear in new cities, this anchor can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Vicki Robin wrote a book called Your Money or Your Life. In this book, she asks a simple question. What is your time worth? Every hour you spend commuting to a job you hate because you cannot move costs you life energy. Every opportunity you miss because you are tied to a house costs you potential income. Freedom has value. Flexibility has value. These things are hard to put in a spreadsheet, but they are real. I know what some of you are thinking. Maya, you forgot something. Rent goes up every year. My mortgage is fixed. In 30 years, I am paying the same amount, while renters are paying much more. This is a fair point. It is probably the best argument for buying. Let me address it honestly. Yes, a fixed-rate mortgage locks in your biggest cost. Your principal and interest payment stays the same. But remember, your mortgage payment is not your only cost. Property taxes go up. Sometimes a lot. Cities need more money. Schools need more money. Insurance goes up. Climate change is making insurance more expensive everywhere. Maintenance costs go up. Labor is more expensive. Materials are more expensive. Your total housing cost as an owner is not fixed. Only one piece is fixed. Now, let us talk about the renter. Yes, rent goes up. Usually about 3% per year on average. But remember what the renter is doing with their extra money. They are investing it. If your investments grow at 8% per year, and your rent grows at 3% per year, your investments are growing faster than your rent. Let me show you with simple numbers. Imagine your rent is $2,000 per month. After 20 years, at 3% increases, your rent is about $3,600 per month. But imagine you have been investing $2,000 per month during those 20 years. At 8% returns, you have over $1 million. You can easily afford higher rent. You can pay cash for a house if you want. You have options. The homeowner, after 20 years, they finally own their house, but they have little savings. Most of their wealth is locked in one building that they cannot spend. The numbers often favor the renter who invests. Let me tell you about a man named Kevin. Kevin bought a house 5 years ago. He thought it would make him happy. Instead, he is exhausted. Last Saturday, Kevin woke up planning to relax. Instead, he spent the day fixing a broken fence. The Saturday before, he was cleaning gutters. The Saturday before that, he was dealing with a plumber. Every weekend, the house needs something. Kevin's friend, who rents, spent last Saturday hiking in the mountains. The Saturday before, he was at a coffee shop reading a book. The Saturday before that, he was learning to code online. Kevin is maintaining a building. His friend is building skills and experiences. This is the hidden cost that never appears in spreadsheets. Your time. Homeownership is a part-time job. Some people enjoy it. They like mowing lawns and fixing things. That is wonderful for them. But many people do not enjoy it. They bought a house because they thought they should. Now, they spend their weekends at hardware stores instead of with their families. In Your Money or Your Life, Vicki Robin asks us to calculate our real hourly wage. Take your salary. Subtract all the costs of working, including transportation, clothes, and stress relief. Divide by all the hours you spend working, including commuting and recovery time. We should do the same with housing. What is your real cost of owning? Include not just money. Include time. Include stress. Include missed opportunities. For many people, renting is not just financially smarter. It is emotionally smarter too. I want to be clear about something. I am not saying never buy a house. I am saying do not buy blindly. Do not buy because of shame. Do not buy because of a story you heard growing up. Buying makes sense in specific situations. First, when you plan to stay for 10 years or more, the transaction costs of buying and selling are huge. If you sell after 3 or 5 years, those costs can destroy any gains you made. You need time for appreciation to overcome those costs. If you are young, if your career is uncertain, if you might want to move, renting gives you flexibility. If you are settled, if you have a stable career, if you know you want to stay in one place, buying starts to make more sense. Second, when the price to rent ratio is reasonable. In some markets, buying is actually cheaper than renting. When the ratio is below 15, the math often favors owners. In these markets, you might build equity faster than a renter can build investments. But in expensive markets, where the ratio is over 20 or 25, the math usually favors renters. Check the ratio in your city before you decide. Third, when you truly value the non-financial benefits. Some people love owning a home. They love knowing it is theirs. They love customizing it exactly how they want. They love the feeling of permanence. This is real. This has value. Not everything in life is about money, but be honest with yourself. Are you buying because you truly want to own? Or are you buying because you think you should? Many people buy for the wrong reasons. Then they discover the reality of ownership, and they are miserable. Fourth, when you can truly afford it, do not stretch your budget until it breaks. Do not buy the most expensive house the bank will let you borrow for. A good rule: your total housing costs should be less than 25 to 30% of your take-home pay. If you have to stretch to 50% of your income, you will be house poor. You will own a house, but have no money for anything else. Let me return to Alina and Sophia, the two sisters from the beginning. Remember, Alina bought a house because that was what she was supposed to do. She followed the script. She is stressed and tired. Sophia questioned the script. She ran the numbers. She made a different choice. She is wealthy and free. The lesson is not that renting is always right and buying is always wrong. The lesson is that you should think for yourself. Do not let society shame you into a financial decision. Do not let your parents' beliefs become your prison. Do not let a real estate agent with a smiling face on a bus bench tell you what to do with your money. Run the numbers. Calculate the price-to-rent ratio in your city. Add up the hidden costs of owning. Consider the opportunity cost of your down payment. Think about how much you value flexibility. Then make a decision based on math and your own values, not on shame, not on fear, not on an old script that might not fit the modern world. Morgan Housel writes in The Psychology of Money that doing well with money has little to do with how smart you are, and a lot to do with how you behave. Behavior means thinking clearly. It means ignoring the noise. It means making decisions that are right for your life, even if they are different from what everyone else does. If the math says rent in your situation, then rent with pride. You are not throwing money away. You are making a smart choice. You are building wealth in a different way. If the math says buy in your situation, then buy with confidence. You are making an informed decision. not an emotional one. Either way, you win. Because you thought for yourself. That is how you build real wealth. Not by following old scripts. By writing your own. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you think differently about housing, please share it with someone who needs to see it. Subscribe for more videos about money, freedom, and thinking clearly in a noisy world. I will see you in the next one.